That's a cool light you have there, Tim.
Yeah, I have a Danish light behind me, and you
Yeah, I
have
was gonna
A
say
Finnish
I
light
recognize.
behind
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Nice. I was like, I recognize you as I've seen that before.
Yeah, I actually have that one as well. So we're like-minded on
Nice, nice.
that.
Very
Look,
nice.
great to meet you, and thanks so much for talking to me today to Nordic Watchlist.
Of course.
I'm going to get straight into this. Now, I read the book many years ago, and at the time, I kind of thought it was maybe crying out to be made into a film, but also then actually thinking it's actually quite a difficult book to translate into a film. So, kind of, what were your thoughts in terms of being drawn to it, but then how you approached those challenges?
Yeah. I mean, I was drawn to it. Well, it started with Moomins. So it started with, discovering Moomins as a kid and sort of learning a lot about like emotions as a kid through these characters. She really doesn't hold back from sh showing happiness and grief and sadness and, a range of emotions through the characters. And so I always was fascinated by those. And then I read the summer book in my 20s and loved it because I had grown up on an island on during the summers, Martha's Vineyard on the East Coast, and spent time and it reflected a lot of my sort of experiences there. But then it wasn't until COVID when I reread the book, that's where I really sort of went on the adventure of getting this movie made, which was I read the book and it was COVID, so it was a time of like I've been stuck in my living room for God knows how long, at this point. And I wanted to like be transported somewhere. I wanted to go somewhere else. And I remembered that the book was so like visceral with how it looked and felt and smelled and all these things and so I reread it and that's where I went, okay, this is such an interesting look at humans' connection to nature and humans' connection to each other without in this sort of fast-paced time where you're distracted by a million things. Like you have to sit in this place and go through these experiences under the same roof with people and I loved that like they're all sort of at different points in their life. It's like the young girl it's the start of her life. Everything is new and fresh and anything is possible, and then the grandmother is at the end of her life and sort of reflecting and the father is stuck in the middle. He doesn't know how to kind of move forward and I just felt like that part was very kind of universally relatable and something that I think people could go, "Oh, I remember what it's like to be a child in that way." And or the father for me, like there was some connections that I was going through at the time where I'm like, "Okay, I can relate to him." And so I think that's what made me go, "Oh, this is a film, regardless of the challenges of there being very little plot and very little drive." I think there's a sort of meditative experience that people can sit and let it sort of wash over them, and that was of course the daunting part, and then also the part where I felt like, oh, this is what makes it unique. This is not something that people make nowadays. I think it's a movie people made in the 70s, but I don't think it's a movie people make now and that's always exciting for me as a filmmaker. Like that's the challenge that I
Yeah.
want to go through.
I mean, in that respect, the film almost asks the audience to kind of slow down and appreciate things that they wouldn't normally necessarily appreciate, particularly in our time, as you reference. Do you think that's do you think that's actually challenging for audiences today to kind of
Yeah.
slow down and not be told what to think? Because the film does seem to sit back from telling the audiences what to think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes it I think the movie can become a mood dependent movie. You know what I mean? Like if you like, I've had people. This is my fourth film, and I would say I've had the strongest reaction to this movie from certain people. I've had people come up and weep in my arms after the movie because they had just lost their grandmother or some connection to it.
Um,
And then I've had other people, or read reviews or things where it's just bored out of their mind, and I understand it. Like it's not there's not a typical three-act structure. I'm not spoon feeding people saying like this is what you have to feel or here's all the backstory of this character. Like I'm not doing that on purpose. And one, that's not Tove Jansson's writing at all. And then two, I didn't, there's no point in making a story about very little if you're trying to tell people exactly what to feel and think, like I wanted it to be a sort of meditation and a sort of reflective experience where people can draw from their own lives and have their own personal connection. And I'm okay with people for 15 minutes of the movie drifting off and thinking about their own, personal experiences that they've had. Like that is the point of it. It sort of becomes one with the audience in a weird way, and also why I was really excited that the film's being released theatrically because it should be a communal experience. It shouldn't be something where at home you can watch 5 minutes, pause it, text on your phone, make a whatever, and then come back to it, watch another 20 minute, like it's just not that film. It's a film that you have to watch it as sort of one piece. And so that I'm really excited that it's going to be seen in theaters.
Fantastic. And just going back to the kind of the space that the film gives the audience to kind of think and reflect and doesn't, tell them what to think. That seems to be very much part of Nordic approach to literature
Mhm.
film. And the book is obviously a beloved piece of Nordic literature. How important for you, and how did you approach it in terms of getting that Nordic authenticity?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the most important part for me and something that I didn't take lightly because the last thing I wanted to do was disappoint an entire country. So yeah, I spent, I would say, like on and off 2 years prior to the shooting of the film. I spent going back and forth between Finland and then we have, I'm actually in Copenhagen right now. We have a place here and spend a lot of time here. And so, of course, different, but also a lot of similarities as well. And so really kind of understanding what that like summer house culture is like, which is quite specific. And I would say it's sort of they all have their own specificity, but there is like an overall idea of like how the kind of Scandies approach the summer life, which is like if you try to email someone in July and get a response, it's not going to happen. Like, and it's amazing. Like they truly check out and spend time together under one roof. And like if kids are bored, that's okay. Like remain bored. Like put your phone down. We're not going to watch TV. Like all these distractions, like that's that's not what it is. And I would say like there's very few places in the world that do that and sort of practice that. And I've now kind of adopted that into my own life with my family and we live our summers that way and so yeah, so I would say like it took me sort of immersing myself as much as I could in the culture to understand it and then also working with people who are from here, who I learned from, who taught me, who showed me references and photographs, and it was a lot of sort of research based stuff, and then the last thing I'll say about it is that we had access through the Tove Jansson's estate to have all of these like archives of photographs from her on her island with her mother and with her partner and
Okay.
with her brother. And so like a lot of the like Glenn really responded to some of the photographs where she's like, okay, it's sort of based off of Tove Jansson's mother. Like, I want to wear what she's wearing here. I want to, it became like quite specific to these photographs. And that was like such a blessing because these are photographs that haven't been seen before. It's not something you can find online. And so that became a big part of our research tool.
So I know we're just coming up to the end on time. Can I ask you one more question? I think given
Yeah.
that um, all you've just said about the sensitivity and understanding of Nordic culture, how did that then translate into the casting for you? Because obviously you've got the leading Norwegian actor with Anders,
Yeah.
a young Finnish actress who seems more English in
Yeah.
many ways
Because
than
her
Finnish.
dad's English, so her English is a sort of
Yeah,
British
and
English.
her
Yeah.
name, and then also the casting of Glenn Close, you know,
Yeah.
the kind of Hollywood grandee. Just tell me a little bit about the thinking behind that.
Yeah, I mean, so I came into the process with already an existing script and something that was had been trying to get off the ground for a while and it was clear that part of the making of this film especially I think from the Janssen estate, was that the hope was that it was an English language film so that it could really reach a broader audience, and so that it wasn't just specific to like a finished theatrical release, but instead it became a worldwide release, and so a part of that was using the English language, and so I felt like, okay, well, if we're doing that, then the most important thing for me is to find the best actors humanly possible and the people that I saw from the very beginning, and Glenn was the person I saw, and I think mostly it came from the fact that I knew she didn't live in Hollywood. I knew she lived in the mountains in Montana, that she hiked every day. I heard all these stories of the kind of person she is, and I felt like, okay, given that this experience is this wild adventure of like, we're asking you to come all the way to Finland and then take a boat every day to a remote island to shoot a movie. Like, you need someone that wants to go through that experience. Like, that's a really important part of it. And so um, I got on a Zoom with Glenn and sort of explained what it is we're looking to do and why I felt like she was the person for it. And she was like, this is what I need in my life. And when can I come? And so it was very clear right away that she was going to sort of transform into this person, that she was going to want to go through the same experience that this character went through. And she really did. She started actually. We built the house, so the house is effectively a set. And
Okay.
Glenn started sleeping in the her room. She just started staying on the island because she was like, I don't want to take the boat back. I'd rather just stay here. And I was like, okay, Glenn, it's not even a real bed. It's just a plank of wood. And she's like, I don't care. I want to do it. So so yeah, so for me it was the most important thing was I'm gonna find the best actors and put them together. And also I found spending a lot of time here that people kind of come from all over the region. So like for instance, Sophia Janssen, the real life Sophia Janssen, who's runs the Moomin estate, she lived in the UK for however many years, and her English has a British accent, so you start to be like, okay, there's a story here, and but I think the most important thing is you get the right people involved. You get the people involved that an audience wants to go through this very specific story with and very connective story with, and I felt like that was Glenn, Anders, and Emily.